Hello folks, we're back with the car news. Loads coming up for you in this one. I'm going to try and whiz through it as quickly as I can. Before we get there, please give the video a thumbs up and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Now in this video, we've got stories from Autocar and Auto Express. We've also got one from the BBC and we're going to start off with that one now. Firm fine for selling China-made cars as Italian. The Italian government has fined a car company $6.4 million, £5 million, for allegedly branding vehicles that were made in China as being produced in Italy. 𝙇𝙄𝙁𝙁𝙁𝙄 misleadingly marketed cars as being produced in Italy, even though they were mostly made in China, according to the country's competition regulator. The firm said it's going to appeal because it never said its cars were made completely in Italy. Instead, they actually assemble loads of Chinese-made parts, which a number of car manufacturers do, by the way. So many cars that are known as whatever brand, German, French, whatever it may be, are full of Chinese components. M25 to close on Goodwood Festival of Speed weekend. That seems like brilliant joined-up thinking, doesn't it? One of the country's largest sort of gatherings of people in cars, because it's very difficult to get there using any other form of transport. Let's close the M25 on that weekend. So this is going to be from junction 9 to junction 10, and that's where it intersects with the A3. And the A3 is the road most people are going to take from the sort of the London area, Greater London area, down to Chichester. Obviously, you can still use the A3, but you can't get off the M25 to get to it. Certainly not between junction 9 and junction 10. And there's going to be all kinds of traffic diverting round. I would guess a lot of people will end up going down the M23 and sort of heading down the coast road, but it's going to be carnage, I think. This is going to start at 9 PM on Friday the 12th of July and end at 6 AM on Monday the 15th of July. So if you're going to Goodwood Friday morning, you should be okay. You might get stuck on the way back depending on what time you leave. And but Saturday and Sunday are going to be a little bit tricky. I'm actually going to be at Festival of Speed on the Thursday this year. So if you're going along, feel free to follow me on Twitter or Instagram and just send me a message on there if you want to find out where I am and come and say hello on the day. I typically get there very early and leave quite early because I'm wired that way. I'm strange. But yeah, if you want to come and say hello, please do. I sometimes find people staring at me randomly, and then like a couple of weeks later, I get a message from them saying, "Were you at this?" I say, "Yeah, well, why don't you just come and say hello?" Driving test wait times up another 20% as DVSA plan is failing. The promise that DVSA is taking measures it can to reduce its waiting times rings hollow as waits increase by 20%. So this is a Freedom of Information Act request, and they found out that since the all measures possible were put in place, times that have gone up 20%. It's awful. People have to pay ridiculous amounts of money to learn to drive nowadays, and then they get to the point where they're ready to take the test and they find they've got a 9-month wait. Not good enough. SUVs accounted for almost half of all cars sold globally last year. Global SUV sales rose 16%. Meanwhile, Chinese cars outsell American cars for the first time ever. So, why do we all love SUVs so much? Why do have so many of us moved away from estate cars and into SUVs? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Chinese cars outselling American cars for the first time as well is kind of a sign of the times, I suppose. Tesla Model Y muscles out Toyota RAV4 to become the world's biggest selling car. Tesla sold over 1.2 Model Ys in 2023, making the SUV the first EV to be crowned as the world top seller for a calendar year. It's thought there'll probably be a new version of the Model Y coming early next year, and that's likely to have the same improvements that we've seen in the Model 3, or not all improvements. Cadillac coming to the UK with 2 EVs by the end of 2024. Obviously, Cadillac have been here before and it didn't work out for them, and off they jolly well trotted again. They're going to start with the Lyric and the smaller Optic crossovers in the UK. I saw the Lyric at the LA Auto Show last year, had a sit in that and a play with it. Build quality seemed exceptionally good, and I didn't get to drive it, but it really did seem like a very, very good car. The Optic is a slightly smaller crossover. Car cannibalism on the rise. Criminals strip cars for parts in public, confident the police won't show. They're doing this in broad daylight in front of the general public. Not being funny, if I saw a guy with a couple of tools in his hand and a balaclava on stripping a car, all I'm likely to do is go and ask him if he wants me to pass a spanner. These days, it's just not worth getting involved. As we know, the police are often very busy dealing with driving offences and also obviously dealing with cases that probably should be dealt with by social services. Some of the work they do is incredible, really, and my hat goes off to them for some of the things they have to actually put up with on a day-to-day basis. But they're just not turning up for crimes. I hear all the time of people being victims of crimes and all they get is a crime number and it takes weeks and nothing happens. They're just not interested. Even though cases where tools were stolen from a van, they had CCTV of the person that took them. They found the person that took them and still the police weren't interested. It's pretty shocking at the moment, and it's no surprise that things like this continue to happen and are actually happening more frequently. New EV battery passport reveals the environmental impact of electric cars. So your car is going to come with a passport. This is going to happen everyone in the EU from 2027. While the UK is no longer part of the Union, they will also feature on cars here too, because we seem to still do everything that the EU does, despite no longer being a part of it. So this passport is basically going to tell you how damaging to the environment your EV is. It'll look at things like the precious materials that have been used in making it. It'll look at things like how recyclable it is, how recyclable the battery is, all that kind of stuff. And I'm guessing this will be a bit like your ABCD rating that you see stuck on a fridge, freezer, or any kind of household appliance. It's just telling you how environmentally friendly this thing is. And that's probably quite a good thing, because for those people that think they're buying an EV to save the planet, well, it might prove to them that they are, or, well, actually, it will help them choose a car that pushes them closer to doing that than one that perhaps doesn't. So maybe not a bad thing. I'm sure some sort of tax will get attached to it at some point, though, because this is the world after all. Fisker files for bankruptcy after rescue talks collapsed. The American electric car maker will sell off its assets to repay creditors, having failed to raise crucial funding. It's a real shame, this, because the cars looked so full of promise. There's quite a nice story attached to it, and the design looked really, really cool. And in the end, they had to rush them out the door before they were ready, just to try and keep the wolf from the door. Ultimately, it's failed, and no one's picked it up as yet. Some other manufacturers will go and pick the bones of that for sure. And perhaps that brand's still got some value, although they may have damaged it by releasing sort of pre-production cars effectively. The UK has the third most expensive fuel prices in Europe. Our diesel's the fourth most expensive, petrol 11th, and electricity second. Only the Italians and Swiss pay more overall. Not a massive shock there. And UK fuel prices not being cut because of the general election distraction, according to the RAC. Brilliant news here. Volvo say the V60 and the V90 are going to return to the UK in shock estate comeback. Much missed medium and large estate cars are on their way back to UK showrooms with hybrid power. This is fantastic news. For me, Volvo are absolute masters of the estate car, and the fact they stopped doing them just seemed a bit daft, if I'm being frank. I think there's still a market for them. I think they're brilliant cars. They're very well put together, very well made, nice things to drive. Great news for me. The BYD Seal U plug-in hybrid, prime for the UK with a £33,000 price tag. Larger sibling of the Seal electric saloon, brings more interior space, competitive range, and will cost less than a VW Tiguan plug-in hybrid. It's quite interesting in the styling. I somehow think it still manages to look a bit bland, but you can see where they've taken cues from perhaps even like the Porsche Cayenne and the Tiguan, and definitely a lot of VW Audi group influence has gone into this. But yeah, maybe it'll grow on me. I did see one in person in Geneva and I was a little bit kind of meh. But maybe it will grow on me. That is the one I saw in Geneva, actually. What do you think, folks? Is that one floating your boat? It's going to cost less than a Tiguan, and it's going to be a little bit more interesting, possibly, than a Tiguan. But is that interest going to move you over from a VW to a BYD? Would you feel happy taking the plunge? That's the question. New hybrid Fiat 500 e-breeder coming soon, while the all-electric 500e will be getting cheaper. Well, thank God for that, because 30 grand for that little car is just way too much, brilliant as it is. Now here's one that floats my boat. The World 800 brake horsepower Ford Mustang GTD headed to the UK at £315,000. Ford's most powerful car yet is also its priciest, and Brits can now apply for a build slot. That's right, you can apply. There'll be no doubt some kind of contract you have to sign to say that you can't sell the car for a certain period of time, because people will buy these just to flip, because they're going to be worth a fortune. But there you go. It's an amazing looking piece of kit. I got some really nice footage of this at the LA Auto Show last year, and I gave that to Men and Motors, and I don't think they used it, unfortunately. But it's a beautiful thing, and it just says American Grunt. Rah. I like it. There's some crazy technology involved. I mean, you can, it's absolutely incredible thing, and I'd love to get behind the wheel of one of those, but that's never going to happen. BMW 1 Series to be reinvented as a radical EV hatchback. BMW's new class platform will be used for the i1 hatch and taller i3 replacement. This is just an artist's impression of how Autocar think it might look. But if it looks anything like that, I would really like to have one, because that looks epic. That really does look great, I think. The iX1 is currently their entry-level car at 46 grand, so maybe this would be around about 40, which would put it sort of head-to-head with the Tesla Model 3. It'd have to be pretty impressive to compete with the Model 3, so let's hope it is. New Porsche 911 revealed, and it's got hybrid power. Porsche's mid-generation 992.2 update introduces a hybrid powertrain for the first time. Now, Porsche enthusiasts are still not over the fact that they're no longer air-cooled, so how they're going to react to hybrid power remains to be seen. I would guess that hybrid system is going to give it even better performance, but Porsche enthusiasts are a special bunch. There are plenty of purists among them that will be gutted about this. Says it's going to take the 0-62 time down by 0.4 of a second, so much as you might expect, it's just a tiny bit livelier off the line. This new one's going to start at 100 grand, and it will be 132.5 for the GTS version of the car. JLR revives the Freelander name for a new range of electric cars. JLR and joint venture partner Chery will build new mainstream EVs in China with plans for global sale. Now, Chery is the company behind 𝙇𝙄𝙉𝙆𝙎 and 𝘼𝙁, a couple of new entrants to the UK EV market, and they're the joint venture partner on this. You can certainly see a bit of I-Pace in that, I think, but an interesting looking thing. Strange to put the Freelander badge on something that's not really anything like a Freelander, but there we go. Plenty of manufacturers do it now, repurpose old brands, don't they, old names. The new £17,000 Renault Twingo EV being developed with help from China. Renault's silver bullet for sustainable mobility is meant to arrive in just 2 years' time, and they think it's going to have a price tag of around 17 grand. Renault has an unnamed partner that they're working on with this, but it's obviously going to go straight up against things like perhaps the VW rival that might be around by then. Certainly the Dacia Spring is going to get seen off by this, I would have thought, and one or two other cars that are all now starting to come along and really compete for a true sort of entry-level electric car. Genesis GV60 Magma is UK bound as hot £100,000 EV. Now, the GV60 is obviously on the same platform as the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6. This is their version, essentially, of the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, which is the absolutely epic car that I recently took around Millbrook Proving Grounds. I absolutely adored that thing. It was incredible in pretty much every way. Genesis will look to redo that, put a little bit of spin on it, make it more luxurious, I would imagine, but certainly very aggressive in the styling. Whether it's worth 35 grand more than the Hyundai version, however, remains to be seen. So let's see what comes of that. £100,000 for one of these is a big ask, so it needs to be very special. So let's hope it is. No more EV. New BMW X3 gets petrol, diesel and plug-in power only. The all-new premium X3 has a sharp new look, cutting-edge tech, but no iX3 this time around. I think BMW have got enough all-electric cars at the moment. They probably feel like There's no need to throw another one into the mix. Pricing's going to kick off at just under 47 grand in the UK. You'll be able to get the diesel from 48,000. The engine's rated Euro 6E emissions regulations, and BMW will add a 6-cylinder diesel to the range in 2025. Hyundai Insta, affordable electric city car confirmed for Europe. Again, going for that cheap city car space. There's literally just been a few little snapshots of this. They've released some teasers, but no real information as yet. You can see the lights there follow on from the Ioniq range. They're going to target a 220 mile range with this one, and it's going to again be competing with things like the Dacia Spring and the aforementioned Renault Twingo and whatever we get from VW in terms of a small car, sort of replacement for the 𝘼𝙁𝙁𝙁𝙁. So that looks very interesting. I'm a big fan of Hyundai, big fan of the Ioniq range. So let's see what happens there. Jeep Renegade's going to be reinvented as a 20 grand EV crossover by 2027. The Nissan Juke rival is tipped to move onto Stellantis' smart car platform and use cheaper LFP battery tech. All that sounds great. Folks, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already done it. I'm still trying to get to that 50,000 subscriber target, so your subscription would be a big help. And I've just released my first video on my new channel, 𝘼𝙁𝙁𝙁𝙁, which is my travel channel. And that first video is a little bit of a crossover because it's talking about car hire abroad. Some of the things to look out for, make sure you're not getting scammed, make sure you get the best price possible as well. So if you like the sound of that, go and check it out. The video's popping up on the other side of the screen right now. Thanks ever so much for watching, folks. I'll see you on the next one.